Are you going to just sit there?
As compared to what? Standing?
Not standing. Rowing.
Rowing? Hadn't planned on it.
Hi, welcome to CMG's review of BioShock Infinite. I'm here with our reviewer, Alex Dale. How you doing, Alex?
Not too bad, thank you.
Good, good. So we're straight into it. Book of DeWitt's in the back of a boat. We want to go easy on the spoilers, obviously, because the story's pretty important here, Dana.
It is, yeah. I mean, this is the opening scene of a game. You've got no idea what's going on, and it isn't. You don't really get a proper picture for what's going on until right at the end. This is what BioShock series does really well. It throws you into a scenario you don't know anything. Like you've been just sort of fantastical new world. You don't know how it works, and it all slowly unfolds. And as beautiful and intriguing and fascinating as Rapture was, I think they've done it again with Columbia, which is one of the best game settings of a generation.
Okay, so it sounds like they've nailed the location. I mean, how do you give us an idea without spoiling the game for anyone? Obviously, give us an idea of what the differences are between Rapture and Columbia. Obviously, apart from the fact that one's undersea and one's in the sky.
Well, as we're seeing here, it's all set up at. When you first descend into Rapture, you've got a splicer banging away, and there's sort of leaks and cracks everywhere, and you can tell that you're in a living hell. Here, this is the first thing you see. You've got this beautiful, picturesque, heavenly sort of garden with hummingbirds and full of religious iconography, and you've got this guy saying, like, you're in heaven, friend, or as close as you're going to come to it, and you've got this sort of quaint, sort of 1910s sort of idealistic imperial city, but then you learn it's all a facade, and there's this civil war sort of brewing underneath, and you're right in the thick of it.
Okay, so the story is super important to the experience behind BioShock, but tell us a little bit about the combat and how that stacks up, because I think when you came back from reviewing it, you said in the office that it feels like a lot more of a sort of straightforward shooter than the first BioShock.
Absolutely, it does. The first BioShock, for all its charms, is a bit wobbly with the combat. You had this big wobbly, horrible, chunky pistol, and it was mostly built around the plasmids. This one's a lot more of an orthodox shooter. You've got the sort of normal cache of guns that you would normally have in the game, and they all feel great. I'd say they feel sort of up there with the best in the FPS genre.
Okay.
Sort of the Call of Duties. Great combat, and the Vigors, which is the new name for plasmids, I guess, have been sort of reworked. They're less experimental as they were in the first BioShock. They're more geared towards combat, so you've got sort of one that sort of allows you to whip combat enemies in. This big sort of tentacle made of water. Makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
You've got like fire grenades and things, and other ones that levitate enemies so you can pick them off. So a more orthodox bunch. There's less scope for experimentation in this world. You won't have the ecosystem. There aren't sort of benign characters such as the Big Daddies clunking around that you can hypnotise. It's more sort of everyone's out to get you. So it's a more orthodox game. But in fact, it's probably better for it once you get over that hurdle that you're not going to have this sort of interesting sort of interactions with people. It's better for it because it allows it to focus, and the intrigue instead comes from the interaction between yourself and Elizabeth.
Yeah, so tell us a bit about the relationship between Booker and Elizabeth. I mean, because, it historically in games, AI-controlled partners have not always been super successful.
Well, it's not, it's at pains to point out that this isn't sort of like sort of someone you have to protect. She does a very good job of keeping herself out of the way, and in fact she helps you out because she scours dead bodies for items, and she becomes. It's not a buddy movie because the relationship between the two is very fraught. Obviously, you've rescued her from this prison. She hasn't been in contact with any other human for about 18 years, I think it is. And they both learn a lot more about each other, and it's a continuously fluctuating relationship.
Okay, so can he go off and do largely what he wants then, or does he have to always have her kind of next to him,
No, she doesn't impinge on that whatsoever. She tags along and they talk when they come across new things, but she's no hindrance at all. In combat, she was completely self-sufficient. It actually worked quite nice because she's a additional resource, sort of scouting out dead bodies, and you can keep that resource until you really need it.
Okay.
Hold down X, I believe it is, and she'll lob it to you.
Okay. So with the sort of a fresher focus on I guess more standard sort of shooting, and maybe like you say, not the sort of people there you can sort of chin wag to and all that kind of stuff to kind of build a different picture. So it's different to BioShock in that sense. Tell us, are there still those sort of moral quandaries without the big daddies and stuff, or is there not so much because of the more reliance on sort of combat?
Speaking as someone that's finished it, all I'm going to say is there are definitely parts of a game where you're asked to choose one thing or the other, and it's hinted that using Elizabeth as a resource will count against you, and stealing might have consequences.
Right,
Having played it through to completion, I know what it's doing with that, and I can't really
talk about it.
I can't really divulge out a spoiler, which I'm sure none of you would really appreciate.
Yeah.
But it's got a clever thing, like BioShock did. It's got a very clever thing to say about moral choices in gaming.
No!